Hi everybody, my name is Vijay Saran and I am your host and guide at Powerloom, the composable data network for Web3. Last time, we talked about setting up our own node on the protocol. Awesome job on taking that giant leap. But guess what? The real adventure begins now. It's time to start building your own applications on top of it. Let's find out why and how. Remember how I told you in the last video that to understand Powerloom protocol better, you can imagine it like a magical fabric where you can weave your own digital world. But here, instead of threads, you use code. So why wait? Your loom is ready and the threads of possibilities are endless. It's time to code your own idea into the power loom. Build, explore, and unlock the potential of your creativity. Today, I'm gonna guide you how you can build your own DeFi application where you can track the price of your favorite cryptocurrencies like Ethereum. So, are you ready to be a young crypto tracker and a developer? So, let's dive into the DeFi world and create an application that could help thousands or even millions of people. Now that your node is active on Powerloom, you can do so many things on top of it. You can write your own custom code to get any information from the blockchain world. Today, I will walk you through a simple use case where we will be focusing on processing and capturing Ethereum price snapshots. And to do that, we need to follow only 4 simple steps. So follow me and I will take you on this journey with me. Step number 1, let's clone the Devnet repo. So for that, first we need to go to powerloom.io. Alright, so then let's go to documentation. Then click on build with Powerloom. Then let's go to Devnet. Then let's click on getting started. And let's scroll down. And here you go. If you have watched my last video, this is exactly what we did. And we will clone this repo. So now that you have copied this command, just go to your terminal, paste it and clone it, just like we did in the last time in the video. So once you are done with this step, let's scroll down a little bit and then you will have to fork 2 repos. First is snapshotter configs and the second one is snapshotter computes. Now this step also we did it in the last time in the video, so I will not do this again, but make sure when you are doing it, uncheck copy the main branch only option, which is very important. I'm telling this again in this video as well. So now that we are done with our step number 1, let's move to step number 2. For step number 2, first, we will open our project in whichever code editor you are using. And then we will have to modify the env file. I hope that you have watched our previous video, and in that video, we have already set up our env file. So we will not go through that step again, but instead we will move ahead with modifying that env file. Since we are fetching the prices from Ethereum mainnet, so we are gonna change 4 values. First is RPC URL. So if you watched the last video, in that we used Sepolia network RPC URL. We are setting RPC URL to Ethereum mainnet so that we can snapshot the data source contracts on it. Second is snapshot config branch repo. Now you can fork this from my repository or you can create your own. which is Ethereum price monitor. Next, we will have to change snapshotter compute repo branch, and that also will be Ethereum price monitor. Now coming to our fourth and last thing that we have to change, that is protocol state contract. So if you watched the last video, we used the contract of Sepolia network. But since we are tracking things on mainnet, so we'll change our protocol state contract to this one, which is for Ethereum mainnet. So these values that we currently changed are modified to switch from Sepolia testnet to Ethereum mainnet. Now let's save the file and move to step number 3. So now that we are done with our step number 2, let's move to step number 3. For that, what I want you to do is go in our file structure and find pooler here. Tap on that and go to snapshotter. Then go to modules. Then go to computes. Now, if you have cloned my repository, you will be able to see this file, Ethereum price tracking.py. And this is where you write your own custom code, or you can use the code by cloning my repository. So after opening this file, here you can see that we have created a class called ETH price processor, which will inherit from generic processor snapshot. Now, what is generic processor snapshot? So you can press command plus click and check it out. So this is a fixed format with method compute. You can fill in the values depending on your use case. So now let's go back to our code, and here you can see that we have created a similar async method compute. So now let's go through each of them. Here, Powerloom snapshot process message contains attributes like begin and end to specify block height. Next is Redis con. It is an asynchronous Redis connection which is used for caching or retrieving data. The next is RPC helper. This is used for RPC interaction with Ethereum blockchain. Alright, so now let's move to this part of the code. Here you can see that we are fetching the Ethereum price using a utility function called getETHPriceUSD. Now let me show you how this calculates the price of Ethereum. So let's just click on it. Okay. So this function expects a few parameters. Now let's scroll down to see how the price is calculated. So as you can see that we calculate the price of Ethereum in DAI, USDT and USDC, and then take out its average to get the final value of Ethereum. So let's get back to our code. So now that we have filled all the parameters that it needs, here we can finally see the attributes like begin and end, which defines the block height. So now I believe that you have understood this part of the code. Let's move to the last and the very most essential part of our code. We have constructed an ETH price snapshot object. So let's command click here, and we have defined the structure here. Here we only need the block height and the fetched price. You can customize this in any way depending upon your needs and requirements. So now you can play around and write your own custom code. The possibilities are endless. And here we are done with our step number 3. So now let's move to our last and most important step, step number 4. So in step number 4, we have to do a very simple thing first. Let's run our Docker. So now that our Docker is running, let's move to our code editor and hit the terminal. Now, once we are in the terminal, the process is exactly like we showed you in the last video. Let's type /bootstrap.sh and hit enter. So now that we are done with this, the next step is also exactly like we showed you in the last video. Just type ./build.sh and hit enter. And let it do its magic. So now that you have confirmed that your node is running, so next open up your browser and then go to localhost 8002/docs and hit enter. Alright, here we have a lot of endpoints which can be used to read, track or store the data to your own applications. So we will test our two endpoints. First is CID epoch ID / project ID, and the second is data / epoch ID / project ID. It needs two parameters, epoch ID and project ID. So let's first go in detail about project ID. So to understand about project ID, we have to go to this URL. So first, let's go to docs.powerloom.io, then protocol, then specifications, then snapshotter, and in that, go to snapshot build. And there you will find project ID generation. Now here you can see that project ID has three parts. So the first one is project type. Now where we can find this in our project? If you have cloned the same config repo that was specified in the .env file, then you will be able to see this. So let's go to pooler. Inside that, let's go to config and then go to projects.example.json. Now here you can find project type, which is where you can see ETH price tracking. Alright. So the second is contract address. Now where we can find this in our project. So again, let's go in our project and go to pooler, then go to snapshotter, then go to modules, then go to computes, and then open the file in which we were working, ETH price tracking.py. And here in this file below, you can see return example. Now this corresponds to the data source, which is usually a contract address, but here it is example as a placeholder string, and it would be still treated as a data source address by the project ID generation code. And I would still advise using a legitimate string so that project ID would make sense to you. Alright, so now the third part is namespace. Now where we can find this? For that, we'll have to go to our env file, and here you can see this namespace. Alright, so now I believe that you understand how our project ID is generated. Congratulations! You have done almost everything, and now you are ready to fetch the price of Ethereum. And how to do that? Alright, so now we'll have to go to Docker and find two values. First is project ID and second is epoch ID. So now let's go to Docker. In Docker, you'll have to find pooler1 and then go inside it and then search for epoch. And here you can see is our epoch ID 100792. So now let's enter it 100792. The second thing we need is our project ID. So if you remember, I told you how project ID is generated. You can either directly write it or you can also find it in Docker. So how to find it? So let's go to Docker. And here search for project ID. And there you go. Here is your project ID. You can copy it and then paste it here. So as you can see, the project ID and epoch ID, we both have it. So let's execute. So once you will go below, you will find our block number and the price of Ethereum. So let's say we need to see what the price has become now until I was recording the video. So let's change it to 792 to 794 and let's see if the value changes. Right now it's 3067. So now let's execute it again. Whoa! And you can see we are tracking live price of Ethereum. And there you have your first DeFi application. That's it. It was so easy. Congratulations on building your first app using Powerloom Protocol. Now remember, this is just the beginning of what all you can really do. Now do remember, with Powerloom Protocol and your splash of creativity, your imagination is the limitation of what applications you can build on top of it. You can follow us on our social handles for more videos that are coming in future so that you can learn more about the protocol. Also, you can follow us on Twitter and stay updated with the bounties we offer to hackers and developers. This is your host, Vijay Saran, signing off.